Okay, Rabbi.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So nice to see you. We're on Kos Ayin Amud Beis, tough daf today. We have 3 more days. Wednesday night, Meretz Hashem, B'yasiyum. Should we wait for you or should we start? Don't wait.
Go. It's okay.
Okay.
Don't hold up anything.
Tanan Hassam. Shisha l'nedava keneged me. So we said last week, we mentioned that there were 13 boxes in the Mikdash. So 7 of them were for different things, as explained, I believe, in Yuma. And the other 6, we're trying to figure out. So there's different opinions as to what these 6 boxes were to collect money in. So Amar Chizkiah, we're going to have different opinions. Keneged Shisha Bate Avos HaKohanim Shetiknu Lem Chacham Sheyeshalom Zeh Im Zeh. Very interesting. He says that there were 24, as we know, 24 mishmaros. Each one worked for a week plus, depending on the rotation. Everyone got a week. And then after 24 weeks, you got your chance again. 24 mishmaros of Kohanim. Each mishmar was divided into 6 different groups. And each day of the week, one of the different groups went. Now, what would happen when it was your group's time? So, let's say there were private offerings, private korbanos. So you would get whatever part of the korban you're supposed to get. However, when there was nothing on the Mizbeach, what do we know we did? We took the extra money, which we'll talk about today, and we've mentioned before, and we took the money and we bought olas to put the kates on Mizbeach, to put animals on Mizbeach. But what would happen to those animals? So the basar would go to Hashem, but the hides would go to the Kohanim. So says Chizkiah that the people, the Kohanim who had the service the day where there were a lot of public kates on Mizbeach olas would get a lot of the hides. And the people who didn't have the service that day and had a lot of private offerings wouldn't get as much. And they would get upset and feel like they were entitled to more hides than they got. So what did they decide to do? So they decided to take the money of all of the Kates HaMizbeachs, all of the extra money that they were going to use to buy these olas, and they put them into 6 separate boxes, and each one of the Batei Avos got their equal amount. Now, Rashi doesn't get into it, so I don't know much more, but to me, when I read this, it didn't make a lot of sense, because what's going to happen now? So let's say you run out of money in your box for that day. Let's say on Monday there were just a lot of kates on Mizbeach korbanos. So what's going to happen? We're going to still have to put korbanos onto the Mizbeach, and in Tuesday, if they don't use any of the, let's just say every Tuesday, there's a lot of personal offerings, because people on Tuesday, they make their weekly trip to Yerushalayim. So it doesn't make sense. So even if you split it up into separate things, I didn't understand how that's going to keep them happy. Because at the end of the day, you got to keep the Mizbeach going, regardless of whether there's money in there or not. But again, it sounds like they separated into 6 different boxes, and this way, all of the money that came in was equally portioned into 6 different boxes for each one of the 6 days of the week. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan Amar, different. No, the 6 boxes were for something else. Mitoch shanedava meruba, tiknu lem shofars meruba k'dei shelo yisapshu hamot. So here's something else. He says again, where's all this money? This money, as we mentioned last week, and we'll mention again, this is money that you set aside to buy a korban, and then the price of a korban goes down. So you have the extra money. What do you do with it? You put it into the box, and it's used to buy the kates HaMizbeach. Or, as we'll see in a second, you set aside an animal, and it gets a mum. And then you go ahead and you redeem it. So then you take that money, you buy another animal. But let's say you separate something and it gets lost, and then you find the original one. So now it goes ahead, it grazes, it gets a mum, you sell it. Now you take that money, which is extra money, kadosh money, and you put it into the box. So it's really meant for any extra money, and then again, we use it for the Kates HaMizbeach. So he says it's not a din and you needed to have 6 different ones because of 6 different Batei Avos. You needed it because the number 6 is lav dafka, and you just needed it to make sure that you have a lot of boxes, because if you put all of the money, all the leftover money in one box, it would get all rotten. It would get all corroded, because there would be too much gold, too much silver in one box, and it would corrode. Therefore, they split it up into 6 different boxes, so that at the end of the day, the money didn't get bad. That's the second opinion. He says no. He says something else. And we don't necessarily, again, they didn't necessarily do this, but he holds that what would happen is if you gave a nedava of a par, you said I'm going to bring a par to an ola, you don't actually bring the par for an ola. What do? Depending on how much, like we said yesterday, there's different amounts. Depending on how much a par is supposed to be worth for an ola, you deposit that amount of money in the box. That's for a par. So these 6 boxes were for the 6 different types of male olas, which we said, adult, young, of a cattle, a sheep, and a goat. Par, egel, ayil, keves, sar, gedi. So those are the 6 different boxes. These are meant, again, for somebody who brings something as an ola. If you go ahead and you bring it, you say you're going to bring it as ola, you don't actually bring the ola. You bring the money for the ola, you put it into the box. If you say a par, you put it into the par box. If you wanted to bring an egel, you put it into the egel box. And then the kohanim take the money out of the box, they buy the animal, and they go ahead and they shecht, and they do the ola for you.
And they announced at the time who's it for?
Seemingly, yeah. V'Rebbe de Amar Katan Vevi Gadol Yatzen. The Gemara says this is Rebbe. Why is it Rebbe? Because if it wasn't Rebbe, then how many boxes would you need? You'd only need 3 boxes for the par, the ayil, and the sire. Because even if you pledge to bring an egel, or you pledge to bring a keves, or you pledge to bring a gedi, which are the young ones, we said that according to Rabbanan, you could actually upgrade. It's not a problem. So therefore, you'd only need 3 boxes, and you could put them into the big adult boxes, par, ayil, sorry. The fact that we need 6 boxes shows that whichever ayil you say you're going to bring, you can't upgrade, and you need to go ahead and put it into that specific box, like Rebbe says. Says the Gemara, Ubar Pada Amar, Bar Pada says we had different reason for the boxes. Keneged, haparim, v'ha'elim. What are the parim? Rashi says the parim are the chata, sibor. Again, these are all the cases where you set something aside, and then it got lost. You brought another one. Then you found the original one, you sell it, you let it get a blemish, you sell it, and then you go ahead and you take the money, you put it into a box. So which one is it? So the parim are the chata sibor. There's a chatas that needs to come for the tzibor who makes a sin, and now you have to go ahead and now you separated one, now you found it. So now you sell the original one after it gets a mum, and you put the money into the box that says par. The elim are for the asham gizelos and asham me'ilos. These are the asham for somebody who is moel, and the asham for somebody who denies a monetary claim against him. Again, you find it, you lose it, you find it, you let it go out, and then you take the money. And Rashi clearly says the last 3 words on the page, ubaim lenidvat sibor. According to Bar Pada, again, similar to the other opinions, at least some of the other opinions, all of this money that you're putting into the boxes is going for Ketz HaMizbeach, is going to feed the Mizbeach when there's nothing to feed. Because again, this money's extra because you found the original one, so you can't just throw it out. You can't just take the money and use it for something else. Chulin, you take the money, you use it for the Ketz HaMizbeach. So that's the parim.
They had so much money they needed 6 boxes, or could they still? Or
no, so they wanted to So they wanted to put the 6 different types of animals into the boxes. That means that if you ended up saying you're going to bring, if you set aside a par for a chatas, if you set aside a par for a chatas sibor, and then you lost the par, and then they found the par, and then you go ahead and you have to let the original one go and graze and then get a blemish. When you sell that original chata sibor, that money goes into the par box. When the same thing happens by an asham nazir or an asham mitzora or an asham gezelos, an asham for me'ila or an asham for denying a monetary claim, that one goes into the asham box, into the elim box. What's the case of kvasim? What goes into the kvasim box? Another asham, but a different asham. And as Rashi explains, that we need a separate box for this one because not all ashams are created equal. You have a chatas, which is one type of korban. Then you have these asham me'ila, and the asham when you deny a claim. And now you have the asham of a mitzora and the asham of a nazir, which we said is not a real asham. It's not for a chatas per se. Even though the nazir became tameh, even though the mitzora went ahead and was punished, he brings chatas for that. The asham purpose is not for a chatas purpose. The asham of these is to let them re-enter society, start the nazirus again. And therefore, if you have the kvasim, the same thing. If the asham of the nazir, other asham of the mitzora is lost and then found and then grazes and then gets a mum and you sell it, the money that you get from that goes into the kvasim box. V'hasi'irim, what's the case of the se'irim? The se'irim is the se'irei chata shel tzibor, shel regalim mechaprim al tumas mikdash v'kachim. This is a separate, special chata. Sorry, again, these are all chatases. As we'll see, these are all things that are chatases or called chatases. Those are the only things that when you sell them or when the price goes down, you put the money in for an adava. Only chatases. The other things not. Says the Gemara, v'hasi'irim, again, the se'irim is a case where they brought certain chatases in case somebody got tameh and he went into the mikdash or he ate kodesh when he was tameh. That's what the 4th box is for. V'hamotaros. The leftover is any leftover money that you have when the price changes. The Gemara is going to ask in a second, what does it mean, motaros? All of these cases are motaros, where you go ahead and again, you have an extra animal and you sell it, etc., etc. So the motaros box is a weird box. One second. V'hama is the box that you put in, as Rashi says, the kolbon. So what's the kolbon? So the way Rashi explains and explains elsewhere is that when you would bring an udder, you'd have to bring your half shekel. People didn't just bring their half shekel. They brought a little bit plus, half shekel plus, just to make sure that, again, that they definitely brought a half shekel. So it was a half shekel plus a little bit. Where would that money go? That would all go into the shekel room. However, when two people would come and want to, let's say the two of us want to bring our half shekel together, we could actually bring 1 shekel for the two of us. The problem is that if we both brought together 1 shekel, then we're quote unquote, not really, but we're quote unquote cheating out hekdesh of 2 things. Out of your little bit more than your half shekel and my little bit more than my half shekel. So what did we do? We brought the 1 shekel together, that went into the shekel room, and then this kolbon, which was the extra coin, which included the extra part of the half shekel that you would have brought and the extra part of the half shekel that I would have bought, it went into this separate box called the kolbon box, or called the ma box. The Gemara is going to reject that in a second and say, well, if the half shekel and a little bit of more goes into the shekel room, then why doesn't the kolbon go into the shekel room as well? Why does it need its own box? Says the Gemara, Kulu so why don't they all say like Chizkiah that the 6 boxes were for the 6 batei avos of that week? Because we're not worried about the Kohanim fighting. The Kohanim understand that whatever day they get, it's the luck of the draw. If today it happens to be that there's a lot of private korbanos, you won't have that many public ayil korbanos that are going to be kates to mizbeach, and you'll get the hides. And at the end of the day, if there's not so many private ones today, then there'll be a lot of public ones. We'll have to fill up the mizbeach a lot, and you'll get a lot of hides. But it's, you know, if you get lucky, you get lucky. They understand that every day is a different day, and you get what you get, and you don't get upset. Rabbi Yochanan, they didn't say, we're not worried about the money corroding. We're not making 6 boxes. First of all, 6 sounds like a random number. And we're not going to make 6 boxes just to make sure the money's not going to corrode, even if you put it into 1 box. According to Ze'iri, we're not going to say that the 6 boxes are for the 6 different type of male animals, bakar, and tzon and izim that you're going to bring, that you could possibly bring for an olah, that's going within only the opinion of Zeir, that's only going within the opinion of a yachid, of Rebbe. Because we said according to the Rabbani, you only need 3 boxes. You don't need the 3 boxes for the young ones, because if you pledge a young one, you can bring an old one. So to say that there are 6 boxes in the temple in order to be choshesh for a shita of a yachid, that we're not going to say. It must be that the 6 boxes were for something else. Kizeiri lo amri, and again, it's fascinating because they're arguing over mitzias. It's like nobody was there to remember what the 6 boxes were for, and they're trying to figure out what the boxes were for. It's very, very interesting. To say we have a separate box for the leftover, all of this stuff is leftover. You had an original one, you lost it, you found it, now it's leftover. The price went down, it's left, like everything is motaros. To say there's a separate box for motaros, I don't get. Says the Gemara on everyone, ma nami on barpada again. Then to say we have a separate box for shkalim, ma nami l'shkalim azla. Just like when you brought your half shekel, you brought a half shekel plus a little bit, it went into the shekel room. Why would you assume that the kalbon, if the two of us bring a shekel together, which goes into the shekel room, why would that kalbon, that extra amount that we bring to make up for the extra we would have brought each as a half shekel, why would that go into a special box? That should go into the shekel room as well. Detani lehechan kalbon zeholech l'shkalim div Rabbi Meir, and seemingly you should be going like Rabbi Meir, stam mission like Rabbi Meir. You too, we assume that the money would have gone into the separate shekel room and not into its omer linadava. Rabbi Lezer happens to say that it went into the separate box. Linadava means a separate box. But why are we going within Rabbi Lezer? You should be going within Rabbi Meir. Seemingly we pass like Rabbi Meir. It went into the shekel room. Don't tell me that there was a separate box for this kolbon for when we brought it together. So we've said why each person doesn't like the other people. So now we're going to give 2 more possibilities as to what the 6 boxes were. A little bit similar to Bar Pada, but it gets rid of the last 2, Mutaros and the Ma, and clarifies a little bit of the first 4. Ushmuel Amar, what are the 6 boxes for? Keneged Moser Chatas, and again, as I mentioned before, all of the boxes and all of the leftovers, and we talk about leftovers and using it for the Ketzim Zech, it has to be korbanos that were either called the Chatas or that again were used for a Chatas. So let's see, what were the 6? Keneged Moser Chatas. Again, if you had a Chatas that you set aside, you lost it, or again, both cases, or you set aside money and the price went down, either one of those 2. So the motor chatas and extra money from a chatas, motor asham, even though an asham and a chatas are similar, they're for different sins, therefore the asham needs its own box. Umotar, the leftover asham nazir. According to him, the asham nazir and the asham mitzorah didn't go in the same box. They went in different boxes because they're serving different purposes also. First of all, they have different halachas to them, serving different purposes. The asham nazir is allowing him to start the nazirus again. Motor asham nazir gets its own box. Motor asham mitzorah gets its own box because that's letting him re-enter the camp. The mitzorah has different halachas of bohen, of taking and having to sprinkle all over himself. The nazir doesn't have that. As Rashi says, they're different halachas, therefore they get the different boxes. Motar minchas chote. This is the leftover for the minchas chote of the poor person who can't bring a regular korban, so he brings the minchas chote. So if again he separates a mincha and then obviously he loses it, and then he separates another one, you take the one, you sell it, or again the price goes down, That's also a chatas, so that goes into its own box, the leftover money. Umotar asiris ha'efa shel kohen gadol. This is the one that we're going to have a little trouble with. And the last one is the leftovers of the asiris ha'efa of the kohen gadol. What's that? That's the minchas chavitin. The minchas chavitin that he brings every single day. Shemakri b'chol yom vayom, fourth line of Rashi in the wide lines. V'im hifrish mos la'asiris ha'efa shel hayom v'nitotro. He set aside money to buy the asiris ha'efa, to buy his minchas chavitin, for the flour, for his minchas chavitin, right? The kohen gadol brought a separate mincha every single day, half in the morning and half in the afternoon. If he set aside money for the minchas chavitin for today, and there was leftover money, the price went down, Baruch Hashem, or bad, the market crashed, and the money went down, it was worth less, he had to spend less. Shuvein yochol etzarfon l'shem machar. So now he couldn't go ahead and take that money and use it to buy flour for tomorrow. Latipol l'nidvat tzibor shegami nikras chatas. It goes into the nidvat tzibor. It's also called the chatzberg elu megalchin yakrivu chataso so iris eifa shel kohen gadol. Why would that money go into a box? We just said only stuff that's a chatas. He's not doing anything wrong, but it's referred to in the Torah as a chatas, and therefore again leftover money from his korban chavitin would go into a separate box. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Oshia agrees, but he disagrees on this last point. Rabbi Yoshia Amar Keneged Motor Chatas, Motor Asham Nazir, Motor Masham Mitzora, Motor Minchas Chote. What's the last one though that he disagrees? Umotar Kinin, the leftover from the bird pair. So again, as opposed to the first opinion which says that the leftovers from the Minchas Chavitin, monetary money left over, goes into its own box. Here he says the leftovers from the bird pair. What's the bird pair? That's a separate chatas. Who brings the bird pair? It's not necessarily for a sin, but who brings it? A woman who's given birth. And after Nida, Zav and Zava. Not a mitzvah, Zav and Zava and Yoleda. So again, it's not a real chatas in the sense that they did anything wrong, but similar to like an Asham Nazir, an Asham Mitzora, it's still called the chatas. Therefore, again, if she buys the birds, or if she sets aside money and then one of the birds gets lost, or the monetary money goes down, the value goes down, she has extra money. So if that Zav or Zava, or it could be a man for a Zav, if that money goes into its own box. So really the two discussions, the machlokas that they're having here is, was there a separate box? Was the sixth box for the Zav, Zava, Yoledes extra money, or was it 6 box for the Kohen Gadol extra money? Both of which are referred to as a chatas, but only one of them, again, according to each one of them, only one of them had its own box. Yes?
Didn't Mitzvah, they dipped one of them and one of them they let fly, no?
But we're not talking about, again, the Mitzvah here, we're not talking about the money from the bird. We're not talking about the bird offerings of the Mitzvah. That wasn't called a chatas, I don't think. We're talking about the asham of the Mitzvah, and then the bird offerings of the Yoledes, the Zav, and the Zava. I'm not sure if it includes the leftovers from the bird of the Mitzvah. Says Gemara, Shmuel, my time, Rabbi Yoshia. Why does Shmuel hold that it was dafka, the leftovers from the Minchas Chavitin of the Kohen Gadol, and not from the Yoledes, the Zav, and Zava? Kinin Tana Leresha. Because if you look, I told you that there are 13 boxes. One of the first 7, we're discussing the last 6. One of the first 7 was actually Kinin. Was actually for this extra money. For Raboshi, Atani, Velotani, Kinin. Does Raboshi hold that one of the first 7 boxes was not Kinin? Vatani Raboshi, Vatani, Kinin. He holds one of the first 7s. What do you need 2 boxes for Kinin? Chad le-Kinin, v'chad le-Mosar Kinin. Very interesting. Exactly why they needed 2 boxes for that. One box was that when you come originally as a Yoledes, a Zav, or Zava, and you want to go ahead and you want to give money, so what do? You give money for the Kinin. If you have to bring, right, we said before, if you have to bring this animal, you don't go ahead and don't bring the animal. You bring the money, you put it into the box. Let's say you set aside $2 for the Zav, Yoledes. Let's say the Yoledes set aside $2 to buy her korbanos, and when she gets to the BAYT Rabbi Zev Spitz, Baruch Hashem, the price went down to $1.50. What does she do? She puts $1.50 into the box that says Kinin for her korban. The extra 50 cents needs to go into the box that says Moser Kinin, the other box. Very, very interesting. Again, so it's all of a sudden now, we're painting this picture where we're not necessarily having everybody schlep animals into the BAYT Rabbi Zev Spitz all the time. We have people that are bringing money, and that's a little bit more up my alley, right? So you bring in the money and you're putting it in the box, and you're saying, you take it from here. Okay, but we'll get used to it when it's time for the korbanos. Says the Gemara, Rav Oshia, my time, so why did Rav Oshia, so he was, okay, he had his thing, but why did he hold that there was no box for the chavitin of the Kohen Gadol? He holds that leftover money from the Kohen Gadol does not go ahead, or the leftover, we should say flour from the Kohen Gadol, is not sold. If you find it, right, you lost it, and now you find it, you don't sell it and take the money and put it into the box. You have to actually let it rot. Interesting. Detanya Moser Nidva Minchas Nidava Motor Minchas Yirkav is not really a sentence. My kamar, what's it talking about? Amar of Chista Hachi kamar. Motor Minchas Chote Nidava, which we said everybody agrees to. The leftover money from a Minchas Chote goes into a Nidava. That's one of the boxes. Motor Asir Sefer Shekohen Gadol Yirkav. The Moser goes into, and it's Yirkav. Says the Gemara, Rabba Mar Filu Moser Asir Sefer Shekohen Gadol Nami Nidava. No, he agrees with Shmuel, and he holds that no, the Moser Asir Sefer also got its own box. Ela Moser Lach Meitod Yirkav. So what is this brisa talking about? That one of the leftovers had a rot? It wasn't the leftover flour from the Kohen Gadol. That could be redeemed, and that money could go into the box. What had a rot? The extra Lach Meitoda. If you bring a Korban Toda and you have extra bread with it, you don't go ahead and sell the bread and then take the money and put it into a box. Well, you can't, because again, the Lach Meitoda is not a chatas. So what do you do with the leftover bread from a Toda? Well, you can't bring it with another Toda, because each Toda needs its own bread. And you can't go ahead and sell it and then take the money, because it's not a chata. So what do? You got to let the lachmei toda go ahead and rot. Beplukta, this is a machlokes amoraim, mutter asiris ofer, motor asiris evish kohen gadol, Rabbi Yochanan mar nedava, Rabbi Lazar mar yirkav. Again, we see this in machlokes, how you treat the asiris ha'efa. But again, for sure the lachmei toda, Rashi says, the lav chatas ikru. You can't just bring the leftover toda bread by itself. There's no such thing as bringing bread by itself. And you can't just bring it with another toda. When you bring a toda, you bring the lechem with it. You can't use the lechem from somebody else's toda, from your original toda, and use it for this toda. Meisve, we have a kasha. Moser shkalim chulin u'moser asiris ha'efro moser kinei zivin v'kinei zavos v'kinei yoledes v'chatos Shamas, Motrei, and Nidava, all of them are fine. The one is that it says Motor Asiris Ha'efa. The motor, the F leftover Asiris Ha'efa, what? Goes L'Nidava. That goes into a box. That seems to be like the Mandarma who says that there's a separate box for the money of the Kohen Gadol's Chavit, and the leftover money, the leftover flour that you sell. My love motor Asiris Ha'efa Shel Kohen Gadol is not the leftover flour. Lo, motor Minchas Chote. When it calls the Asiris Ha'efa, it's not talking about the Kohen Gadol's one, it's talking about the one that everybody agrees to, the Minchas Chote. The Asiris Ha'efa was the measurement. It happened to have been that the same amount of flour was used in the Minchas Chavitin of the Kohen Gadol and the Minchas Chote of somebody who was too poor to bring an animal. Says the Gemara, Amar of Nachum bar of Yitzchak, Mistaber Kamandamar Motor Asiris Efer Shel Kohen Gadol Yirkav. He likes the opinion that says that there was no separate box for the motor of the Kohen Gadol, and really that leftover flour was left to rot. Tanya lo yasem aleh shemen v'leitin aleh levona ki chatasi. By the Minchas Chote, which again everybody agrees, you sell it and you put the money into a box. It says lo yasim aleh shemen. To the Minchas Chote again, right, where the poor man brings, there's no shemen, as we mentioned many times. V'lo yitin aleh levona. There's no levona ki chatasi. What does that imply? Amar of Yehuda, he kriya chatas ve'ein acheres kriya chatas. Only a Minchas Chote is called a chatas, and not the mincha of the Kohen Gadol, the chavitin of the Kohen Gadol. If it's not called the chatas, then you can't redeem it. You can't put the money into leftovers, because again, only chatas money goes into the leftovers. Limit al asiris evash Kohen Gadol she'ena kriya chatas, and therefore, if it's not called the chatas, it's te'una levona, because only a chatas, again, the leftover money goes into thing, but also it doesn't get levona. Umi de'ena kriya chatas. Once it's not called the chatas, the minchas chavitin moteres yirkav. The leftover cannot be sold and then put into the box. The leftover is let to rot. Masna zak the Mishnah. Shor ze ola v'nistav v'ratzu yavi b'dam of shnayim shnei shorin elu ola v'nistav v'ratzu yavi b'dam echad Rabbi Oser. Ayel ze ola v'nistav v'ratzu yavi b'dam of keves. Keves ze ola v'nistav v'ratzu yavi b'dam of ayel v'Rabbi Oser. What's going on here? So we're going to see in a second. We're going to be a difference between saying shor ze and shor. What does that mean? When I say shor ze, when I say this specific shor is going to be brought as an ola, so I got to bring this shor as an ola. Fine, no problem. If I say I have to bring a shor as an ola, it doesn't have to be this shor, it could be any shor. What if I say shor ze ola and something happens to that shor? So on one hand, when I say shor ze ola, I'm locked in on this shor. That's a chumrah. I can't bring any shor I want. But I also have a kula, because shor ze ola, if this shor then gets a blemish, I'm off the hook. In the sense that I could take that money and now buy something else with the money. Once I set aside to a certain shore, so if something happens to that shore, I can take the money and buy other things. The question is, what else can I buy instead of this? So shor ze ola v'nistav, if it gets a blemish, imratza yami b'damav shnayim. If I want, I can go ahead and I can bring 2 mini shores, right? I'm going to end up bringing 2 for the same price. That means I have to use all the money from this shore. So this shore was worth $1,000. It got a blemish. I sell that shore. I let it, whatever I sell it, I get, because for food, I guess you're going to get whatever money you're going to get. right? You're going to get the same amount of money if it has a tiny blemish or not. That's what I'm assuming, unless you're selling it for korbanos. But you get $1,000 or whatever you get for it. You could buy 2 of his children, 2 mini shores.
Before Tzedikah.
This is before anything, before Zrika. This is before the Shechita, yeah. So, what are you doing? You pledged a big one, and now you're bringing little ones. Usually you can't do that, but again, because it got a blemish. If it didn't get a blemish, you can't switch it. You can't just take a shore and say, okay, I'm changing my mind, and I'm bringing the 2 mini shores, even if the same amount. No. But once it gets a blemish, all bets are off. You have to use that money for Kodesh, but you can use 2 mini shores instead. And the other way as well. If I put aside Shnei Shorim Elu Ola, if I put 2 shorim aside, I put 2 mini shores aside for an Ola, and these count for $1,000. And then what happens? And then they get blemishes. V'nistavu ratza yavi b'deman echad. I can sell them, and I can go ahead and I could buy Mama Shore for $1,000. Seemingly, I could buy Mama Shore for more than $1,000 if I want, but I have to at least use the amount of money that was in these 2 shores. V'Rebbe Oser. Rebbe doesn't like it. Lechatchila, says Rashi. But if he brings it, he's yotze, because once he says zeh, he's not chayiv b'achriyuso. Again, if you said shor la'ola, and you don't say zeh, and you set one aside and it dies, then obviously you're chayiv for it. But over here where you said shor zeh, so you're not chayiv for this specific one. This one was set aside, fine. Rabbi's oser. The sefer of the Mishnah seems to be a little bit of a more of a chiddush. Ayil zelol. I set aside an ayil, which is what? That's a male adult sheep. V'nistar, if something happens, in bratza yavi bedam of keves. I don't only can bring 2, same thing. It seems to be a similar thing, right? Shor and then 2 baby shores is the same as ayil and then a keves. Keves ola v'nistaiv. If I have a keves, then I can upgrade as well. So I can downgrade, I can upgrade, I can go from 1 to 2, 2 to 1. I just got to use all the money for Rebbe Yosef. Rebbe says it's going to be a problem.
So Rebbe's saying you can't bring anything?
It sounds like, no. It sounds like you got to bring exactly what you originally had, even when you said shor zeh. You got to use the money from Mama Shore, and you got to go buy another Mama Shore. Or an ayil, you have to buy another ayil, a keves, you have to buy another keves. And you can't downgrade in terms of the type, and you can't split it up into 2 different types. Says Gemara Amar Reisha, we had the last Mishnah, which says shor b'mana ve'evi shnayim b'mana liyotze. I say I'm going to bring a shor for a mana, and you bring 2 for a mana, you're not yotze. Says Gemara, that's a ridiculous question. Shor zev and istarv shani. We just said, well, I said, when you give a shor mana, right? When you say shor b'mana, that's different than saying shor zeh. Shor b'mana. Now you can't go ahead and bring 2, because I said I'm going to bring 1 shore b'mana. When I say I'm going to bring this shore, and then something happens to this shore, then I can change my mind and bring 2 baby shores instead. Says the Gemara. Again, difference between saying a specific animal and a shore. Shnei shor elu olev nistavu ratzu yavi b'deman echad v'Rebbe Yosef. The Gemara is assuming at this point that Rebbe is only arguing in the second case. That means when you said you're going to bring 1 shore and something happens to it, Rebbe would say you can go ahead and you could bring 2 baby shores. In the case where you said you're going to bring 2 baby shores and then something happens to those 2 baby shores, Rebbe says it's usher to bring 1 mama shore. Says the Gemara in my timer, what's the reason of Rebbe? Mishum dahavale gadol vehevi katan. Rashi. Means when you have 2, it's interesting. I would have thought the opposite. But you have 2 shorim. Now you're going to go ahead what? You're going to buy with their money 1. Even though it's going to be the same exact amount of money because you got to spend all the money, 2 is more chashuv than 1. And according to Rebbe, we remember from last time, you're not allowed to go ahead and you're not allowed to downgrade. The truth is, even according to Rabbanan, you're not allowed to downgrade. And even though, again, that it got a mum, you can't go ahead and you can't switch it. Lo shari Rebbe. V'liflog nami b'reisha. Why doesn't he argue in the reisha as well? And what was the reisha? Shor ze'ola, and something happens to it, so you bring 2 little ones. So it says the Gemara both ways. If you have 2 and then you go to 1, even though the 1 is bigger than the 2, you can look at the 1 as being less chashuv than bringing 2. Or the opposite way, you could say as well, according to Rebbe, if you can't downgrade, that if you have 1 big one, and now all of a sudden you want to bring 2 of them, so why is it okay in the first case if you have 1 big one, then now you can't go, why is it okay according to Rebbe that you could bring 2 little ones? That also seems to be downgrading in certain senses. Again, 1 to 2 is downgrading in certain senses, and 2 to 1 is downgrading in certain senses. So what's the problem? Oh, sorry. Again. My timer. What's the reason for Rebbe? When you have 2, and then you bring 1, Rebbe assumes that 2 is more chashuv than 1. So I can't go from 2 to 1, because I can't go from being more chashuv to being less chashuv. Fine, 2 to 1, even though, again, I'm using the same amount of time. One mom is not as chashuv as 2 babies. But why in the first case, when you have 1, and now you're splitting it up into 2, which is more chashuv, according to Rebbe what? According to Rebbe, what did we say? You have to bring exactly what you said. Right? According to Rebbe, you can't even upgrade. Not only can you not downgrade, you can't upgrade either. Again, upgrading and downgrading even using the same amount of money. You can't upgrade either. So why in the first case does he not argue? Why does he say if you have 1, you can actually go ahead and bring 2? You're not even allowed to upgrade according to Rebbe. Says the Gemara, you're right. V'liflog nami bereisha. He teaches us a good lesson for us in life. Musar. Rebbe akula milsa palik. He does argue on both cases, but he let the Rabbanan finish talking. V'nater lulu Rabbanan adamaski milsai v'adar miflag alayhu. Usually we interrupt people while they're talking. He said, Rabbanan, you tell me your 2 opinions. Right? Rabbanan start talking. He's quiet. Rabbanan say, you could take 1, it gets a mum, you could switch it to 2. I'm not done yet. 2, you get mums, you could switch it to 1. Now Rebbe comes along and says, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I actually argue on both of those. I argue in the first case that 1 you can't put into 2, and 2 you can't put into 1. It needs to be exactly the same. You can't downgrade, you can't upgrade. Shalom HaYisrael.
This mum is identified at what stage?
So that's what he's saying. The mum is identified seemingly before you do the shechita. And now
There's minimum mums then. Usually when it's shechita, you can tell at that point, no? All the stuff that's going on.
I would think that it's at the time. I mean,
Something else to the side.
I don't know.
I'm saying that's just a minimal.
So it could be. It's a minimal case. But what would happen? So let's just say through it. What happens if you
More reality.
before the zrika, even after the shechita, before the zrika? So seemingly again, even after you shecht
But
it.
if that's the case, then you've already bought this par, and now you've got to go buy another par or 2 smaller.
So the point is that you would
Same-
sell this. You're going to sell this
For
par.
what? It's already a korban. You can't eat it, and you can't use it.
Right. So that's why I originally thought that it was before the zrika. That's why I thought it was before the
Right,
shechita.
but if that's the case, then you can't find all the mums that are identified.
That's interesting. Yeah. So what would happen after the shechita? You're out. After the shechita, you're in trouble.
Very, very costly.
Right. Right.
Maybe only talk about moves that you can see beforehand.
So seemingly, right.
How can you say anything?
No, but what happens? The rabbi is saying after the shechita, you can't start switching them. You're not going to be able to redeem them. Who's going to buy it? He's saying before the shechita, you're going to redeem it if it has a mum in it. Well, it has to be that case because it's saying, what do you do? We were talking about all these cases where you get some mum and then you let it go out and graze, and then you redeem it.
Right.
Seemingly, it's talking about before the shechita. After the shechita, yeah. Okay, Zak the Gemara. We have to let people. So for us, the musar is you got to let people finish talking. That's it. You got the 2. He starts talking. Let him finish his words, and then keep going.
Not very Jewish.
Not very Jewish. Okay. Zak the Gemara. Teida. I'll bring you a proof that Rebbe argues on both. Diktani ayil ze ola, because in the Sefer, what does it say? I want to bring an ayil as an ola v'nistayv. Ratza yavi b'dam of keves. Keves ze ola v'nistayv. Ratza yavi b'dam of ayil. Rebbe oser. You see that again? Rebbe's osering both ways, going forward and backwards. Clearly, he argues on both. Shmamino, he was just waiting again, and he argues on both. Fine. Even in the case of keves to ayil, which is katan v'hevi gadol, you can't go ahead, which is the equivalent of 1 to 2, right? Keves, which is the baby, to an ayil is the equivalent of 1 to 2, and you see that he's oser in that case as well. Ibaylu. So now we've discussed Rebbe and Rabbanan going from 1 to 2, 2 to 1. Rabbanan say you could mix and match 1 to 2, 2 to 1. Rebbe says you can't do any of that. Let's say now I want to switch the type of animal. Now one of them, I set aside an animal, it gets a mum. Can I switch, forget about 1 to 2, 2 to 1. I want to go 1 to 1. I'll use the same exact amount of money. I'll buy a mama one, whatever it costs. But can I switch animals? Can I go from an ayil to a par? Can I go from an ayil to a sire? And vice versa. Says the Gemara, Ibaylu mina lemina mai. If I want to switch the type of animal after it gets a mum, shor zel ola, can I bring, let's assume that you could bring 2. Let's assume like the Rabbanan that you could bring 2. Can I bring 2 elim? Because again, it's going to be hard to switch an ayil or a shore into 1 ayil. You have to find a really fat ayil. So you're going to have to get 2 ayils to get the price of 1 shore. So let's say I set aside a shore, and according to Rabbanan, you can go 1 to 2, 2 to 1. But now the question is, would the Rabbanan agree that I can go from a shore to 2 ayils, or just from a shore to 2 shores? Says Gemara, Tashma shore ze'olav v'nistav lo yami b'dam of ayil, aval maybe b'dam of beis elim. Well, you can't bring 1 ayil because it's too small. You're not going to be able to use all the money for 1 ayil. But you can bring 2 ayils. For Rebbe Oser, Lefisha ein Bila. And Rebbe says that you can't do it. Now, it's interesting. It sounds like according to Rebbe, you actually can do that. And there's a separate reason. According to Rabbanan, for sure you see the answer to our question is for sure you could do that. A shore, you can go into 2 aisles. According to Rebbe, it sounds like you can also switch one into a different type. Again, in this case, you can't switch 1 into 2 because he doesn't allow you to do 1 into 2. But if you could do 1 into 1, it would be okay. Why? Because the only problem he has is bila, is mixing the minchas. That in the original case, you're supposed to bring 1 mincha with the shore. And now he has a problem that when you bring 2 animals instead, 2 aisles instead, now you have 2 minchas. You can't go from 1 mincha to 2 minchas. But it sounds like in terms of the animal, going from one type to a different type, that's going to be okay. Says Gemara, Shema Mina. We learned that you're allowed to switch animals. Even seemingly according to Rebbe, but for sure according to Rabbanan, Ihachi, Ma'ir Yatrei, Afilu Chad Nami. Then why are we giving an example by the Rabbanan that you're switching an aisle or a shore into 2 aisles? Why can't we just say you're switching a shore into an aisle? Says Gemara, Nistoiv l'Rabbanan Loshani Lu Ben Gadol L'Katan Treitani V'Aliba De Rabbanan. Rashi. Just want to read this a few more minutes. Lefisha Ein Bila. שצריך להביא עמם 2 מנחות בשני כלים, ויכול לערבם בכלי יחד, הילקח לו מחסה, כי יהוא דנדרו דנדר מידי דבא מנחסו בכלי יחד, וכמייסי בשני כלים, וקצר כדאי דלאו משום המנחוס, לא אכפת לן הקורבנוס. אי נדר חד ומייסי טריין, הואל מכוח כמה עשו, אבל מנחוס דמבי מבייסו באינה דומיה דנדרו. So again, that's, you see Rashi clearly, that's only a din in the neder. Ii hachi demimina lamina shari, my area, if we're switching from min to min, why are all the examples in the Mishnah 1 shore to 2 shores or 2 shores to 1 shore? Says the Gemara, why don't the Rabbanan say 1 to 1? Treitani v'aliba de Rabbanan. Treitai di'ika desfira le dafilu b'nistoiv asri Rabbanan begado ve'vikatan lechatchila. Because there's actually opinion who says that you cannot go ahead and you cannot go from 1 to 2, that even the Rabbanan would agree that you can't necessarily go from 2 to 1, etc. It's a separate opinion. But again, seemingly the opinion that we had is the way that we learned. According to Rabbanan, you can switch 1 to 2, 2 to 1, and you can go ahead, you can upgrade, downgrade, and all the way around. Says Gemara, Rabbi Yosef lefi shein bila, time dein bila, hayesh bila shari vatnan. How could you say that ayil ze olav v'nistav ratza yavi b'dam of keves, keves ze olav v'nistav yavi b'dam of ayil v'Rebbi Oser? Trei Tanai v'aliba de Rebbe. Again, we have 2 Tanai aliba de Rebbe. One Tana says that according to Rebbe, even though you can't switch numbers, you could switch types. The other one says you can't even switch types, and for sure you can't switch numbers either. Uvitahorim egel vevi par keves vevi ayil yatsa stama kirabana. So the summary again, it comes out that there's different opinions. There's a Mishnah according to Rabbanan, Bryce according to Rabbanan, Mishnah according to Rebbe, Bryce according to Rebbe. According to Rabbanan, it's always okay to switch animals. According to Rebbe, it's usually not okay to switch animals. Again, depends on, you're switching 1 to 2, 2 to 1, you're switching different types. Ratza yavi bedam of base. So again, back in the Mishnah, we said if you have a shore and it gets a mum, you can go ahead and get 2 baby shores. Amar Rav Menashe bar Zvid Amar Rav, lo shonol da Amar shor ze ola. Aval Amar shor ze alai ola hukva. So again, we said this whole thing about switching can only be when I said shor ze ola. This shore. Now, if something happens to it, I don't have achrayas for that. Sure, I can go ahead, I can take the money and buy another combination of different types of animals, different numbers. If I say shor ze alai, if I add the word alai, now I got to bring exactly the same. That's like saying shor ola, then I got to bring exactly the same. V'dilma alai lahavi kamo. Maybe dilma alai just means I promise I'm going to bring it. Why does that make me? You're saying the Gemara says you're right. Eli and Mar Hachi and Mar. Amar Menashe bar Zvid Amar Rav lo shano damar shor zeola. If I say shor zeola, or even if I say inami amar shor zealai ola, you're right. If something happens to it, it gets a mum. I can go ahead and redeem it and then bring another 2, different type, etc. Aval Amar, if I say shor ze vidamav alai ola, this shore and all of its money is on me as an ola. Now all of a sudden hukpah. That's it. I'm taking it upon myself. Again, it sounds like a metzias in the lashon. Now I'm taking it upon myself. At the end of the day, if something happens to it and I have to redeem it, I have to get an exact replica. I have to get a shore.
Sounds like Mitzvah would be you have to bring 2 shorim.
No. Shor ze v'damav alai ola. If something happens to it, so then it goes ahead.
But it says shor ze.
Right.
V'damav. We say the.
And its value, and its value.
And its value. That sounds like 2.
I don't know. When it says hukva in Rashi, it says, if you look down at Rashi, achrayasu alav lavi ola achas v'lo l'shtei olos v'diyam alai lavi l'zeola kamer v'chemen nistav azol eid nadre shor zeh l'damav im nistav hukva la'ola echad dimaisi beis olos lo yatzav al ilo amar alai yatzak yechi david le'de'eno chay b'achriyuso. Chay b'achriyuso, it sounds like imamish have to, chay b'achriyuso is a weird lashon, but it sounds like you have to bring that exact one. That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, you're not chayiv b'achriyuso. Why do you have to bring anything?
So again, it sounds like you're not chayiv to b'achriyuso of this specific one. It's like a weird lashon. You're still chayiv to make up with the money because the money is kadosh. Usually chayiv b'achriyuso means you're not chayiv to bring anything. But it sounds like that's not the way the Gemara is learning here. Zok the Mishnah. One more. Ha'omer echad mikivsei hekdesh. One of my kvasim is hekdesh. You don't say which one. Or echad me shori hekdesh. One of my shores is hekdesh. What happens? V'hayu lo shnaim. You have two. Listen to this. Hagadol shebahen hekdesh. So if I say one of my shores and one of my kvasim are hekdesh, then we assume that what? We assume that whatever you're giving to hekdesh, you're going to give your best. So you got to give the best one to hekdesh. This is really weird. The next four words. Shlosha, and maybe even more. If you have three shores or three kevitzes, or even more, beinoni shebahem hekdesh. Then the middle one has to be hekdesh as well. And it sounds like, again, if you have 9 of them, or 10 of them, the first 9 all have to be hekdesh. It's very interesting, because we don't know which one of the ones are hekdesh. Says the Gemara, we'll see in a second. Peirashi v'eni odea masha peirashti. If I say, I set aside one of my shores, again, if I just said, one of my kvasim, echad mikivzei hekdesh, you take the best. If I say I set aside a specific one, I don't know which one. Osha amar li abba v'eni odea ma. Or my father sent me aside, I don't know which one. Hagadol shebehen hekdesh. My father died, I don't know which one. Then the gadol shebehen hekdesh, again, we don't say, like we said before, you have to bring all your shores. We assume all the time that anytime you or your father or anybody sets aside something for hekdesh, you're setting aside the best one. That's the bottom klal, or the bottom line. Bottom line is that whichever one, whenever you say I'm setting aside one of my animals for hekdesh, we assume you're setting aside the best one. The only weird thing we have to figure out is when you say I'm setting aside one of them and you have 3 of them, then the top 2. That I don't get. Says the Gemara, Alma makdish b'ayin yafe makdish. That shows that when you're makdish, you always do the ayin yafe. Ema seifa beinoni sheben hekdesh. Alma makdish b'ayin yafe makdish. So why by the beinoni do you say that you have to worry about the beinoni? Now again, the way that you might have been learning, Rabbi, is that you looked at it, he said beinoni means only the beinoni. So let's see what he says. Amar Shmuel, choshishin af lebeinoni. Dilagabe katan ayin yafehu. When you only have 2, so obviously you're giving me the better one. But when you have 3, so the best one is the best one, and the second one is still the better of the 2 bottom ones. What does this mean? Choshin af lebeinoni Rashi. Dechevan damar echad man hekdesh lo yadana ahai minayu chal hekdesh ia gadol o abeinoni tehave ayin yafe lagabe katan. The second one is still better than what? The second one is still better than the last one. Hilkach atarvayu chayil. So now what? So now you got to go ahead and you got to bring the second and what? Now you got to bring both. So says the Gemara, Umiu lo karv lemizbeach elachabinai. It doesn't have to mean you have to bring both on the mizbeach, but you got to do something with the second one. Aval heicha damar peirashti leka lisfuke devadai gadol perish. Very interesting. When I say I definitely set aside one of them, then we say you only have to worry about the best. So here peirashi, if you remember, peirashi was always a chumrah. Peirashi was always a chumrah. I set aside one of them, you had to set aside all your stuff, right? By a mincha. Now it's a kula. Peirashti, we for sure assume it's the best. But if I say one of them, now we have to say that all of them that are the best are even relative to other things. So what do you do if you don't have to bring all of them as a korban? Let's say you have 3, you only have to bring the top 2, but what do? You have to bring, we're not bringing both, hechi avid, what do you do? Amar Rebbe Bar Harav, mamtin lo acha yumam, you wait for the middle one to get a mum, umachile liktushase begadol. Then you go ahead and you transfer its money to the best one you have. But again, be careful not to say echad mikivzei hekdesh. One of my kvasim. Either set aside a specific one or say pirashi v'eni yodea ma pirashti. Amar Rav Nachman Amar Rav Baravua lo shanu el de'amar echad me shori hekdesh. It's only if you say one of my shores is hekdesh. Now again, you have to bring the best one. Or you have to bring numerous ones. Aval amar shor shebeshori hekdesh agodo sheben hekdesh. Tura b'turai kamar. Anytime you say the shore of my shores or the house of my houses, that's the best. This is going to have a practical nafkamina. So if I say I'm selling you the house of all houses, that's clearly my best house. I'm selling you the animal of all animals. That's my best animal. Ini, is that true? That's not true. We see elsewhere that if I say I'm selling you the house of all houses, and you give me $1 million because that's how much the house of all houses will cost in Thornhill, then I say, Shkoyach, let me take you to your new house, and I show you the attic of one of my rundown houses. Says the Gemara, understand, that's fine. That's Ba'isha Rebesi. La mishum de Gariha. because you can give him anything you want. Lo me'ula shebebatim. No, aliyah doesn't mean the attic. It means the best of the houses. Enachanami, the houses of all houses, the shore of all shores. That means the best of your stuff. Meisvei, there's only a problem. Shore b'shori hekdesh. You have a problem. It says shore b'shori hekdesh. V'chein shore shel hekdesh nitzar b'acherin. Let's just skip the second case. Shore b'shori hekdesh. Hagadol shebehen hekdesh. The biggest one is hekdesh, but also v'kulam yimachru l'tzarchei olos who demand chulin. Forget about the details for a second. It says that when you said shore shebeshori hekdesh, you have to sell all your shores. I understand. I thought shore b'shori hekdesh is my best one. The second case is, what if I have a shore shel hekdesh and mixes with all my other shores? Then I understand I have to sell all of them because I don't know which one is hekdesh. But if I say the best of my shore, the shore of my shores, what do I have to sell all of them? Says the Gemara, you're right. You're reading it wrong. Targuma shore shel hekdesh and isar b'acher v'hu v'chein v'kamar. It says v'chein no. Targuma agadol. How do you read this brisa? Shore b'shori hekdesh hagadol shebehen hekdesh. The brisa is a little bit mixed up. Hashor shebeshori hekdesh, hagadol sheben hekdesh. Like we said, if I'm selling you the shore of all shores, then I have to give you what, or it's hekdesh of all shores, then the gadol sheben becomes hekdesh. If what happens, my shore shel hekdesh mixes with the other ones, then what happens? Then the second part of the brisa happens. Kulam yimachru l'tzarchei olos v'demand l'chulin. Then they all get sold, and the man goes to chulin without getting into the details. But it still is not a kasha because again, it comes out shore shebeshori is gadol sheben hekdesh. Meisvei, we have a little bit of a problem. Bias bebeis yani macher l'cha. If I say I'm selling you the bias of all my houses. I own 10 houses, Baruch Hashem. I'm selling you the bias of my batim, the house of all houses. And what happens? One of my houses burns down. Not the best one, the cheapest one burns down. V'nafal. I said, here, let me take you to your new house. Mareu nafal. I bring you to the burnt down house. I say, shkaya, congratulations on your nice purchase. Says the Gemara, Eved ba'avdi ani machal v'meis mareu meis. I say, I'm selling you the Eved of all avadim. And you buy it, and then one of my avadim, who cares which one, not my best, maybe even my worst, but one of them dies, drops dead. I said, here, let me show you your Eved, that he's going to be taking care of your house. He's the guy over here that's dead on the floor. It's yours. V'amai, why? You said the bias of the baitim. You said the Eved of all Evdim. You should get the best based on what we're saying. Says the Gemara, lichsei heidan nafal v'heidan meis. Why don't we see which one died and which one fell? If the best house fell, that was his. If the best Eved fell, that was his. But if it wasn't the best one, it wasn't his. Why all of a sudden are you making an about face and saying that we don't go based on the best? Says the Gemara, we do. The Eved Sheba Avdi is the best. The Shor Sheba Shori is the best. The Beis of the Beisi is the best. But only when it comes to Hekdesh. Because when it comes to a sale, you, the buyer, have the responsibility to prove what you bought. Hamotzi mechavero alav haraya. Says the Gemara, lokeach ka'amris, shani lokeach diyad bal ashtar ala tachtona. I said the bias of all baitim, it's important, Klal Rabbi, you'll catch the end. The bias of all batim, yes, when it comes to Hekdesh, when I say the shore of the shorim and the bias of the batim, when it comes to that, for sure, by Hekdesh, it's the best of the best. 100%. But when it comes to a sale, if I tell you you're buying the bayit of my batim, the house of all houses, when it comes to a sale, you need to prove that I sold you the most expensive one, because the yad of the Baal Shar is on the Tachtona. You, the Lokeach, need to prove Amotzi Mechaver Lavaraya. And even though in general, when it comes to Hekdesh, the Bayit of Batim is considered to be the best, when it comes to a sale, the Bayit of Batim is not considered to be the best. You need to prove that it's the best. And if not, then if I say I'm selling you the Bayit of all Batim and one of my houses burns down, even the cheapest one, I can say congratulations on your purchase. Here's your purchase. Hashta da'asis lahachi. Once we've come to this and made a differentiation between when you buy and when you give to Hekdesh, now we can go back to the case where I said what? The Bayit and Batim, and I showed you the Aliyah. And we said it can't be the Aliyah, it can't be the attic, it has to be the best house. It's not true. Afilu tema Aliyah degriya yad bal ashar al taton. It could be that when I'm selling you the Bayit of all Batim, you give me $3 million, and then I say, okay, let me show you your new Bayit of all Batim, and I take it to the attic of a decrepit house. Says the Gemara, beautiful. And we don't say like we said, they really know. You could say, no, we sold me the best house. When I say bayit shebebatim, by a sale, you have the responsibility to clarify which bayit I'm selling you. And if you don't, you're going to end up with a $3 million attic. Shkoyach, everyone. Have a wonderful day.